This morning, if I'm suffering from depression, I have anxiety issues.
Uh-huh.
And my last Saturn return just almost fucking killed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in therapy. I hadn't been in therapy in a long time. Everything was going okay. I was on anti-anxiety medication. I mean, the whole 9 years. I was just really, I was in bad shape for about 6 or 8 months.
Right.
Um, and I'm not feeling like I'm clinically depressed. Part of the reason we moved to New Mexico is, hey, 355 days of sunlight a year.
Fine. Yeah.
I know. And, in the Midwest, it's like by February 15th, I'm ready to slit my wrists. I just lay on the couch, watch Ingmar Bergman movies, and stay in my pajamas. So it's not that. I just don't have any fire about anything.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And I got a lot of fire.
I know. And I immediately saw a reason for it, so you'll be glad.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
And have you had a strategy reading?
Part of it is just the cultural thing.
Yeah. Any move's hard as well, so.
And culturally speaking, little white blonde lady, we're in like a minority in this community. Which is one of the reasons I wanted to move here, because I'm sick of being surrounded by old, rich, white liberals.
Yes, yeah.
And
but then it's still an adjustment.
Yes, it is.
It is. And I know that from moving here. So.
Yeah, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't want to be insensitive. I have a tendency to say things that are wildly controversial.
I shouldn't laugh, but you have Mercury in Sagittarius like I do.
Yeah, at the grocery store, I say these things, Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it. And, Tom keeps saying to me, well, like, have you heard the astrology thing? Like, what's your passion? Send it out with the full moon, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, just think I want to kind of like sit on the patio and watch the birds today.
Yeah. And nothing wrong with that, really, to be honest. Have you had astrology readings before?
I have. Two of my past readings were with evolutionary astrologers.
Mm-hmm.
Rose Marcus was one of them.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember who the other one was.
Because I'm an evolutionary astrologer too. So.
Yeah, I heard that in your most recent podcast.
Well,
they recommended Jeffrey Wolf Green's 2 books on Pluto, so I figured there was like some of that in there. And I did, my first reading was with Heather Rowan Robbins.
Okay, yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't think she liked me very much. That's just between you, me, and the wall.
She's a little prickly. You and I have had a couple of moments, shall we say, where she came on one of my political posts, kind of tried to do the establishment Dem thing, and I was like, you don't come on my post telling people what they have to do.
Wow. Yeah.
You could do that on your own wall. That's fine.
Yeah.
You don't do it on mine. And yeah. She hasn't commented on a post since.
But I feel like the Facebook page is like your living room.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so, I didn't unfriend people, but I just put them on, like if I change my profile picture, they see it. They don't see anything else.
And I don't mind polite disagreement. but I'm not having somebody coming on telling people what they have to do or being obnoxious. So that's all. So I'm probably not going to spend much time on the basics on your chart because you kind of want
Okay.
guidance about where you are now. But you've if you've had readings with Rose, they've probably looked at your Pluto and your moon's nodes, yeah, and told you about them if you remember them.
Yeah. When I was with Rose, it was during my Saturn return, and I said to her, when can you look at my chart and tell me when this fucking anxiety is going to stop?
Mm. Uh-huh.
And she said, never.
Never.
And, at the time when she said it, I thought I was just going to absolutely collapse. But, really, I was grateful to hear that.
Yeah.
Because I deal with it differently.
Exactly, because you just know you have to find ways to manage it then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I'll quickly kind of talk about it because Pluto is your soul's desire in this lifetime. And I don't know well, I'm just going to talk about it.
Okay.
So you were born with Pluto in Virgo, which is a generational thing, but you were born with Pluto in the 10th house. And that's really kind of a soul's, your soul has come into this lifetime like, it kind of made me laugh that you said, oh, my business is, nothing's happened to it and all that, because you've kind of come into this lifetime kind of very Capricornian, kind of very, very organized, very, very kind of this is my way, very determined, all that kind of thing. And probably you've got much soul memory of being in authority, but also others having authority over you. It's kind of got a very authoritarian feel to it, this Capricorn. This is kind of what your soul came in with this lifetime, with this soul memory. But your soul really wants to move to the opposite point of the zodiac, which is this very spiritual, creative, peaceful, home in a kind of inner place. That's so if you've not been kind of it sounds like you're following it now, but it kind of, your soul kind of wants peace and to be alone and to do meditation and all those things, which probably don't come very naturally to you.
No, I had to work at that.
Yeah.
I had to work really hard at that.
But looking at the birds is a form of that.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. You don't have to actually go and sit cross-legged and go, oh, I'm not very good at that either. We're both Saggies and, a bit too fidgety for that, for heaven's sake. And then, but how do you get to this opposite point? This, your Pluto polarity point, it's called, is where your soul desires to really reach in this lifetime. We rarely reach it, but it's at 0 Pisces. And so that's a very, very peaceful kind of creative place. And in the 4th house, that's the house of the moon. So it's a house, and the house of the home. So really your soul really desires to be in a very peaceful, homely place, or ultimately doesn't have to be in it all the time, but that's that state it wants to kind of attain in this lifetime. Okay. And we do spend our lifetime reaching that. Okay. But then you have how do we get there? And you've got some very interesting patterns in your chart. I might talk about those as well. And then we reach them via the lunar nodes. And incidentally, you've also got some very critical degrees in your chart, which is very interesting. So I'll look at those. But your lunar nodes are really your soul habit and your soul potential, or your karma and dharma in the Buddhist sense of the word, the term. And your Pluto is actually squaring your moon's nodes in an out of sign square, but it's still squaring them. So I'll tell you what that means in a minute. But your south node is in Taurus. It's in the 7th house. So it means really that your kind of soul habit is to have material comfort, to really to be in relationship to others, and to always kind of bounce ideas. Even though you're strong-minded, it's got this element of caring what other people think, and you already said you don't want to step on people's toes. It's that kind of feeling that uh, you just don't want to kind of upset people. You want to make everything comfortable for other people in this lifetime, it feels like. That's
Well,
your...
I'm extremely empathic.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah, you are.
and so it's as much for my own comfort
Uh-huh.
as the fact, that of course I'm, a little pink goddess and cares what everyone else thinks.
Yeah.
It makes me so incredibly physically uncomfortable to have to start to process their shit.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I have to start to lock the systems down to not be at the affect of that.
Yeah. Well, and that's partly your all this rising sign stuff. You've got Scorpio rising with Neptune conjunct. That's really a psychic sponge, if you like, kind of energy. Both water signs. Yet, ironically, your soul actually kind of craves that kind of connection and thing, and kind of that deep spiritual bonding. So your kind of lifetime path is really to find out how to do that without it making you ill. so I'm sure you've done lots of studying over the lifetime like I have, but protection techniques like bubbles when you go out and things like that. But really, your soul really wants to dive in deep and connect deeply with other people. So where you've been shutting it down might not be what your soul really wants. And the fact that your nodal axis is squaring Pluto means that you have found it really hard to actually move towards that place that your soul wants. Okay, that peaceful place, but in deep connection with, well, not just with people. It's not really just people. It's with nature. It's with the birds. It's with, so actually you're kind of probably stepping into it a little bit now, and I'll talk about the aspects that are happening now and the transits that are happening now that are triggering that. But you've got all this Scorpio at the front here, and the Neptune is on your ascendant really by 5 degrees. That's very close, and Neptune is in his own house, the 12th house. So you are very, very empathic, probably very psychic too. I don't know if you really use that ability at all.
Yeah, I worked as an energy healer.
Did you?
I did a 2.5-year program and worked as a medical intuitive for a MD.
Oh, right. Okay.
And, I kind of stopped doing that because nobody wanted to do the work, first of all. It's like they would come in and it's just like, fix me.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And I just was taking on too much stuff.
Yeah.
And try being an energy healer in the Midwestern rural Illinois in the 1990s.
No.
Yeah, it's just a way to starve to death. So
you're in a better place for it now.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I'm probably in a better place for it, but you can throw a rock and hit 12 energy healers in Taos, Santa Fe area. and I'm not sure that that's really what I want to do. The business I started was storytelling for business,
Okay.
and I like economic development. I like business development. I like business growth, and helping people kind of like find their way with how it is that they make a living in a more soulful way. So I use everything I used when I was an energy healer.
I was going to say, yeah, all that would be very useful for that.
Oh, exactly. I use all of those talents. I still read people. I still say, so when I say to you, start a marketing campaign, tell me how your stomach feels. And so, you know, I use all of that anyway.
Well, I think you'll come back to it. I do. I think you've been going through, well, having moved a lot myself, I know that men seem to just do it. We women have to kind of find our place in a new place somehow. It's kind of different. It took me a good year before I even started to feel like Utah was home.
Wow.
You know, Australia was easier. We can look at your relocation chart as well. We'll look at that to see how your chart's changed a little bit.
Well, Scott Wolfram, we utilize Scott Wolfram Traveler's Well. And we had astrocartography done for both of us, which is why we ended up here.
Oh yeah, you know, I just thought it might give you more kind of pointers to where to go. I'm not going to judge whether it's a good place or not. I'm just going to look at your chart in the new place. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
But you know, you have got Leo at the top of your chart, so the storytelling thing makes complete sense, kind of, you know, and helping people to tell their story. But you know, let's move off there. You know kind of yourself very well. Let's look at what's happening now. And I do want to show you some things that have been happening. Well, the first thing that just leapt out at because you have you know, you've got a very strong Neptune already. You are very Neptunian, with Neptune being, so it's being angular, it's called, but it's on the ascendant, and it's in its own house. And Neptune, by transit, is in his own sign, Pisces, and he's been squaring your sun. And when Neptune and Neptune's been squaring all my stuff too, so I get it. I've done a lot of just daydreaming and things. I have to kind of make myself do something. But yours is in the area. Your sun is in the second house, and so that's really connected with your drive to earn some money, your self-worth, your self-esteem, your will, kind of thing. Not in the Aries way, but a Sagittarius sun in the second house is kind of very driven to live its vision and kind of things like that. Well, what's Neptune doing? Squaring it. Neptune in Pisces, in his own sign, is kind of just dissolving that kind of energy, that fiery energy. Its water is going like, psst. It's creating steam, you know. And he's been squaring your sun for ages. He's finally moving away, but he will go retrograde again, and I'll show you. I don't think you ever get another exact square, so that's good. But Neptune goes all the way up to 20 degrees and goes back again, but only goes to 18. So I would predict, I mean, there are other things we're going to look at too that have been causing you a bit of jip, and probably some of the anxiety again. But I think you're kind of going to start to feel like the clouds are parting a little bit. Neptune's only just stationed direct and is really starting to move away from your sun. Neptune's stationed direct at 15 degrees, almost in exact square to your sun. So he's been sitting on your sun since you moved to the, to the
Okay.
place, and Neptune can bring a feeling of being depressed, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's clinical depression. Sometimes it does. I don't think you have been. I just think it's for you, it's low energy, and just like you said, I just want to just dream and look at the birds and just it feels like a fizzle.
Right. Right.
So I do kind of think as Neptune moves further away, he's only just moved to 16 degrees. So once he gets to like a good 2 degrees away, I think you're going to start getting a lot more energy. And that's only a couple of months away. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then Neptune is he's in the area of creative expression. So it feels like some creativity is going to start coming back in, then a bit more energy to get out there and do things. We love the southern desert, our southwest desert, us Sagittarians, because we just love those open spaces and those colors and the energy and the rocks and all that kind of stuff. So
Isn't
I
it
kind of
magnificent?
sorry.
Isn't that vista
Oh,
just magnificent?
oh, it really is. Yeah,
I have never felt small in my entire life
yeah,
until I moved out here.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's why I'm in the southwest too, because it's just I just look at it and I just go, wow. And that's why we're always heading down to Arizona and southern Utah too, because it's all similar kind of energies. And I love New Mexico too. But that's been huge, Neptune squaring that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Part of it's probably to kind of allow the energy of the place to really settle into you. It can be hard when you're used to doing all the time to feel like that. But if you kind of let yourself think, oh, well, I've just been kind of dreaming the place into myself, if you like, that kind of feels.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And then when Neptune moves on, he's not been in your fifth house that long either. Let's just go back a year to when you moved there. Well, Neptune only went before you moved there. Neptune only started moving into this area of your chart in 2017. So you're kind of moving into a space of very psychic creative energy kind of thing, where it's almost you could and when I say creative, I don't mean painting or whatever necessarily. I just mean your creative self-expression overall. It's
Right.
you're almost kind of reaching a point of where you could just kind of channel a program for your clients, or it's all going to start just flooding into you. But I think it kind of really had to move off this sun first, or you had to integrate the sun before it would move on.
Okay.
So does that kind of make sense, kind of timing wise, that the last year Neptune has just squared that, and if you think about the energy of Neptune and Sagittarius and Pisces, it's all very similar energy. It's all about belief and faith and trust. And to add to the square from Neptune, Jupiter was passing over your sun too. And we've had a Jupiter-Neptune square 3 times in 2019. And they're of similar energy as well. So it's kind of like you're kind of been soaking up what do I really believe in now? What do I have faith in? What do I where do I want to go now with sorry, somebody's at the door. I think
I completely understand. We have 2 dogs and Tom took them next door.
I think it's just a package. Let me just
Okay.
keep my head out the window. Well, they've gone, whoever it was, so they'll have to. And the dogs have stopped, so that's all right.
Well, it's like it's not like I don't have any ideas. I have ideas. I just have no clarity about execution of the idea.
They are determined. I have to go to the door. Can I pause for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Sorry. Talk about persistent. Anyway, I'm recording again. Sorry, you were saying that well, I think you're having all these ideas, and that kind of as Neptune moves away, you're going to be able to the ideas will be able to take form.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a relationship between Sagittarius and Pisces, I know.
Yes. Yeah, there is.
I have a Pisces brother who, if I had to describe him when we spend long periods of time together, he feels like a wet blanket.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and it's not that he's not like genius. It's not that he's not kind or intuitive or intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
But if I spend long periods of time with him, I've got Mars at 0% Aries. I'm like, well, let's just fucking go do it.
Well, you've kind of been your own wet blanket for a
Yeah. So that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Good.
And, and I'm glad it's moving away.
Yeah, it is. But try and look at the gifts from it, because I think all this time you've spent looking at the birds and things, I think there's going to come something from it, that is going to emerge from it creatively, and about where you're going in the future. So
Okay.
yeah. Now, other things that are happening, I said we had Jupiter over here. Jupiter's kind of moved into Capricorn now, which is still in your second house. And I think that's going to give you a little bit more kind of oomph as well. And Jupiter's going to pass over your Vesta soon. And Vesta is about sacred devotion, and but also about business and things. It kind of feels like and we're also having the eclipse on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Is going to be on your Vesta here. That kind of also feels like she's focus and commitment as well, Vesta. It kind of feels like a bit more focus and is coming back in, a bit more kind of organization, determination, a bit more grit coming back in. So I think you'll start to feel that as well after these eclipses.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's good too for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, other things that you have going on are Uranus over here. Uranus went right the way up to your descendant, has gone retrograde, is going direct on January the 11th, and going to cross over your descendant again. And Uranus can bring that anxious kind of feeling as well. So this might have been going over an angle might have caused a bit of your anxiety again to flare up. And Uranus is going to square your Uranus. Now, Uranus has an 84-year cycle. So you would have had your Uranus opposition at 42.
Okay.
And now, 21 years later, you're going to have your Uranus square. You're kind of going through your Uranus square. And that can be a time of restlessness, not quite knowing what you want to do, kind of like, I want to change, but I'm not quite sure how. It can bring, it's opposing your house of your home. So it brought a move, which was planned and fine. But, it's probably taking you a while to settle into it more because of this Uranus. Uranus, it kind of is this restless kind of energy. It's like I want change, but I'm not quite sure what I want. It's very fidgety, and ironically, with combined with the other one, it's probably been very uncomfortable combined with Neptune, because Neptune just wants to sit and look at the birds, as you said, but yet there's a part of you that really is kind of itching to do something, to like,
Yes.
why can't I do this kind of thing?
Yeah.
You know. And Neptune and Uranus is, as I said, going direct on January the 11th, and then he'll start building up speed. And you hit the last exact, oh, there we go, back again. The last exact square to Uranus before he starts really moving on, kind of in end of April, bit after that.
Okay.
And so you might have this kind of not quite knowing what to do with yourself feeling, and for the next few months. But then when Uranus crosses into your seventh house, everybody always goes, oh, it's the house of relationships. But actually, it's got so much more to it. It's got a lot to do with business. It's got a lot to do with marketing. I think you might suddenly start like getting ideas about how you can put yourself out in the world when Uranus goes into there, and how you can start to work with people in your new place and with all these new ideas that have started to come from all the dreaming and everything that you've been going through. It's because it's in Taurus, I think it's going to really kind of affect how, bringing in some money and all that kind of thing as well. But it's a lot of it. So when you were doing this storytelling thing, had you actually started to work with the business?
Yes. Oh, yeah. And I had a number of clients.
Yeah.
Across the country. I would work with them on Zoom.
Okay. I kind of feel like you might do some in person where you are now.
Yeah, I like that. And, you know, the Uranus piece of it, one of my greatest strengths is to break things.
Yeah.
And so, this Uranus disruption piece, as well as Eris and Black Moon Lilith,
Mm-hmm.
I like those influences. I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because in order for the new thing to come through, you have to break the concretized matter of the old thing.
But I think Uranus being retrograde on an angle has been uncomfortable for you because you quite like that.
Yes.
So I think you're going to like it when Uranus goes direct and starts approaching the third Uranus proper square for you.
Okay.
It's going to feel a bit more exciting again, a bit more electric kind of thing.
Yes.
Towards the end of April. It must have been quite, because you kind of like that disruptive energy, and you do. I can see it in your chart too. It almost squared your Uranus exactly, and then it pulled itself back, and it's like I'm waiting for this kind of disruptive, like let's do this exciting stuff kind of energy, but I can't yet because it's gone backwards.
Yeah.
So you've kind of had a lot of frustrating stuff going on for you, because you're like me, you're a Sagittarius. We like forward movement. You've got a strong Uranus because your Uranus is up near the top of your chart. So yes, you like that disruptive energy. You've also got Jupiter over there in Virgo that kind of really likes to get things done, and that's in the area of the chart that's also very associated with groups and entrepreneurs and things like that as well. So you've had a lot kind of holding you back, really, and it's not been very comfortable at all. So, but there's a lot more to look at yet. But those were the two huge transits that I really noticed. Now, I do want to quickly, I did want to bring in your secondary progress chart as well.
Can we,
Of course.
ask about something?
Yeah.
When you talk about this, this Pluto opposition here,
Yeah.
or no, the square with the north and south.
With your nodes. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And about my soul's desire to create a peaceful place.
Yeah.
I have to honestly say, one of the challenges of my life has been being comfortable and having a comfortable home.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I come from, all the women in my family are fabulous, like house decorators and house cleaners.
Right.
I suck at this.
Uh-huh.
But creating like a safe home place, this is the only place I've ever lived where I really am comfortable like staying home.
Yeah.
Instead of going out. And I'm 63. I mean, for decades of my life, it's like any place but where my closet and bed is.
Yeah.
I'd sooner be any place. I find it challenging. And, you know, we've lived here for a year. Tom says, you know, we need to get the rest of these boxes unpacked. And it's like, I know what's in the boxes. I know where the boxes are. I'm fine with that decorating.
Uh-huh.
This is upsetting for him. But for me, I'm okay with it. But I'm feeling like an impulse that maybe I could and should try and do it a little differently, and it would open up a whole new vista for me. Does that make any sense?
Oh, it does. Absolutely. Yeah. And the reason why you've always found it challenging is because your Pluto is squaring these lunar nodes. That makes it far more difficult for you to get to this point that I talked about. Okay. But, you know, by 63, you're starting to be able to move past that and learn it. And I think stepping into a place that suits you, that suits your soul better than where you come from, is helping that, you know. And you say you don't really want to unpack the boxes and things.
Yeah.
I think that's because you don't want too much stuff. It feels like you want a bit of a, you know, almost a, you know, a very sparse kind of place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another fight.
And I'm not saying you can't have anything. It's just, I think it feels, because this Pisces likes a bit of space and things like that. They don't like chaos and confusion. And
right.
your Pluto wants to move to a more Piscean space.
Okay.
And so too much stuff just kind of just like does their head in kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And Cancer, and this house, the fourth house, does want comfort, but it doesn't necessarily mean too much stuff. And yet you've got a south node in Taurus that has probably been quite attached to stuff before. You probably...
I have a mother that worships stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you know, stuff is what I get. She would just like fucking suffocate me with stuff. If I let her. I have a sister who's exactly the same way. And it's a constant a constant struggle. And when we moved, they lost like 10 boxes.
And you're like, whoa.
Well, I'm surprised I'm not a lot more upset about it than I really am.
No, I think because you're really finally ready to move to this space, and it's
Yeah.
a way of getting rid of them. And it's like, well, you know, if I've not missed them, then they weren't that important. Whatever was in it.
Right.
It could be another opportunity to just divest of some more stuff. Yeah, you know, I'm not saying don't have anything. I'm not suggesting you become like a hirsute hermit kind of thing with no possessions,
Right.
but you get the idea. It's like at the moment I'm getting a similar vibe because my office has got too much stuff in it. I'm just wanting to give it all away to Goodwill or something.
Right.
Just
Right.
have less in there. So
Okay.
yeah. But the reason you found it difficult before, I think, to settle in a home is because of this square. Okay, for sure. Absolutely. And there's been a couple of transits to this that have probably started to trigger the letting go kind of energy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That just kind of like really jumped out at me, and I'm thinking about it. It's like, yeah, that's just a challenge for my.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, oh, there's so much I could say, but I want to get onto your. So I talked about Uranus by transit.
Yeah.
Is going to go over here. So secondary progressions are another form of looking forward. Well, the secondary progressed Mars has literally just moved into your seventh house too, and that's a big change as well because your natal Mars was at 0 Aries, as you know, and so because you've got a natal Mars in Aries, it's pretty important planet in your chart anyway. And you've got Scorpio rising, as you probably know, and Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So you've Pluto's one ruler, but Mars is one of your ruling planets. Secondary progressions move a day for a year, so it's only moved from 0 Aries to 6 Taurus now, and moved into your seventh house. And this is another kind of drive. I think the drive is going to come back in the area of marketing, business, how I put myself out in the world as well. And the fact it's combined with that Uranus going to move forward. So these two are going to hit each other. It's going to be like a big, it feels to me like it's going to be a big kind of almost explosion of ideas and future goals and things like that. Sorry, I thought you were going to say something. And of course, the secondary progressed Mars is 6 degrees 38 minutes. It's about to square your natal Uranus too, which is gonna. It just everything I looked at felt to me like you're kind of coming out of a doldrums, and with the impact of Uranus, I think some of it's going to be like sudden explosion of ideas, and Uranus is also future goals and things like that. And then Mars is drive and will and energy. It's in Taurus, so and it has been in Taurus for quite a while, but it's moved into a new place. It's moved into a house that's to do with the mind. So there's going to be a lot of ideas. And it's also the house of business relationships and clients and things like that too. I don't see it to be anything to do with Tom. I think you're kind of a bit like me with your marriage. If you've been married that long, it's at that space where, you know, some things that might cause problems in a marriage just don't. I think this is more to do with an awakening in your business sense, because the house of Libra is about business as well, and clients and marketing. So, you know, you might start you might think of an innovative way to start marketing your business and getting yourself out there and creating classes and such like. So, how did you used to market yourself?
Well, I hired a business coach for a year,
Oh,
and her way of doing marketing was all pretty much social media,
yeah.
and I did a lot of social media. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. That was interesting.
Uh,
I found myself constantly wanting to throw the hand grenade into the meetings.
oh yes. I'm trying to stay zipped about these things.
But I would do like lunch and learns, where I would invite people from the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Come. I did a lot of like lunch and learn things at co-op working spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I have really mixed emotions, and I actually said something to my business coach about marketing on Facebook feels to me like I just am feeding the thing that I'm wanting to destroy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I've been reading Charles Eisenstein's Sacred Economics and thinking, how does that get incorporated into business building for entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
And I'm still chewing on that. I don't have a model yet.
No.
But there is a new economic model that's sitting right on the etheric bubble, looking to manifest like that in reality.
Yeah.
I can smell it. I can just almost reach out and touch it, and I'm excited about that.
Well, I think it's coming. And that was kind of my point. Please don't hire another business coach.
Okay.
I've hired coaches in the past, and to be honest, they're just coaching to a model, aren't they? They're just coaching. I call it the MLM coaching thing in the world.
Well, she didn't start out that way.
No.
She really didn't start out that way. And in the year or so that we worked together, I saw this huge shift in her business. And it's I don't think I like you anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't work well with people that I don't respect.
Uh-huh.
If I have no respect for you, it's difficult for me to hide it.
Well, if you do hire another one, don't do a year. Hire people for short, sharp things.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say is Mars is very quick. Mars likes direct action. Okay. And the fact you're going to get Mars, Uranus that likes individuality, uniqueness, doing it your own way, and it's all on a Uranus square to your own Uranus. I think you're going to come up with some really innovative ideas of your own that just suit you.
Okay.
And you don't have to follow anybody else's plan.
Well, she did get me off my left foot. I mean, I will say that about it.
Oh, I'm not saying they don't have any value. I'm still friends with my last business coach, but I wouldn't hire her again because all she could see was the way she does things. And I was like, I just want to do things my own way.
Right.
I've actually just joined a 8-week mentoring program for myself, but it's with this she's actually a psychic astrologer who's very good at business too, and I thought 8 weeks I can do. She's already kind of helped me, so
Right.
I think you need something different than the business coach kind of thing.
Right. And in 8 weeks she probably won't piss you off.
Exactly. A year, I'm never doing a year again. I've done 2-year-long programs, and they change in it, and you change, and it's like, oh. Yeah, never works. So that's going to bring lots of innovation. So you do have that to come, and I don't know if you can remember what it was like when you were about 42. When you had your Uranus opposition, it's in a different part of the chart, but it is this kind of new ideas, itchy to do something different. The square is even more dynamic, really, and combined with the Mars by secondary progression at the same time, it's like get out and do this. And I think it's going to be something, as I said, very more in person, because Taurus is more connected.
Mhm.
It's going to be quite lucrative, I think, in Taurus, and kind of break the mold a little bit as well. So,
When I was 42, Tom and I separated actually for 2 years.
oh right, yeah,
And I left Illinois. I moved to Santa Fe. I lived in Santa Fe. And we both did just a shitload of work and got back together.
uh-huh. Oh
So
well,
it was hugely disruptive.
yeah, yeah. Well, this could be as disruptive. I just don't get the vibe that it's going to be about you and Tom again, though, this time.
Right.
I think it's going to be about your work.
Good. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, and it really does feel like a create, because your Uranus is in Leo. It does kind of feel more like a bit of a creative kind of explosion. So that was one big thing that I saw with the Mars there. I've just got this list here of other things.
Okay.
Oh, how could I forget that one? Let me. Uranus as well has been opposing your Neptune. That's not helped your kind of lackluster, fizzled feeling. Well, he's been back. So to go to now. So he's retrograded, opposing your 12th house Neptune too. So I wanted to mention that that's been really, and with Uranus being in Taurus, it kind of feels like you've almost not wanted to move because it's your body.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's going as well when Uranus goes direct. So yay. These you've been Neptune, and everything's been about Neptune and Uranus for you over the last year. And not in the better way for you, but it's all changing. So any questions while I just go through my list and look at the other things I wanted to talk about?
Um, Anything jump out at you as far as my physical health is concerned?
Well, Taurus is the body. So there could have been some niggly kind of. Have you been feeling off it, or?
Well, my joints are bothering me more than usual.
Okay, Capricorn then, really.
Yeah.
Joint. Yeah.
Um, and I had last year, since we moved out here, what have I had? 7 bladder infections.
Oh,
Yeah, UTIs.
wow.
And probably, and I'd like to say it was because of having too much like hot, nasty sex, but that's not the truth. Unlike when I was younger and I used to get UTIs. Yeah, it's old lady UTIs. It's not hot, nasty car sex.
Do you think it's because it's and just like first instinct, because it's such a dry climate? Do you not drink enough water anymore?
No, I think I'm drinking plenty of water. I think there's just been a whole like gravitational shift in my body.
Yeah.
And I think stuff that used to be higher or more closed is like lower. And
Yeah.
I really think it's like, it feels structural to me.
Yeah, probably is.
And when I say that to the doctor, they like look at me like I'm a woo-woo energy healer. So, I mean, I haven't had one in the last, what's it been, like 3 months now? But I was having one like every month when we first
Oh.
out here.
Oh.
And it just made me, I just felt like crap all the time.
Right.
Um,
I'm not seeing loads about health. I'm not a medical astrologer, but
okay.
I think perhaps Uranus being retrograde in Taurus, which is the body, and in the house of health, which is the sixth house, has
Right.
probably not helped. It's probably been a bit disruptive.
Right.
I'm not kind of seeing anything major, and I have sensed things in people before.
Okay.
And Uranus is shaking your body up a bit, and you know, just it's only been there once in your lifetime in Taurus. So when he went into Taurus, it might have shaken your body up a little bit as well,
Okay.
because it's
Okay.
in the house of your health. I just want to go back to when he went. When did he go into Taurus again? So back in March of 2019, or a bit before, February 2019.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then, so when a planet goes into a sign like that, it kind of is at its most potent and powerful. And it's still been in this house of health, but it's moving out. I kind of feel like there's nothing long lasting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. But I'm not a medical expert with astrology, but I don't see.
I
So, what else have we got? All right. Okay. April. Saturn. Saturn is over here by transit. Yes, we're on Saturn. So, Saturn is then going to. How is that happening? Oh, no, that's because I've gone all the way back. Oh, that doesn't make sense to me. Hang on. All right, yeah. Saturn is moving into Aquarius, and then Saturn is going to square your Neptune again. So, I'm not saying everything Neptunian is disappearing. The good thing about Saturn squaring your Neptune, which is only once he goes over, I think, or does he go? But no, he will go back and forth. But I think what often happens with these things is that the transits kind of shake you up. That Neptune square's been really hard. Saturn comes along and says, let's ground all we've learned and let's kind of make it real. And in Aquarius, he's talking about building kind of long-term goals and things like that. So it kind of feels like in the summer of next year or late spring, you're going to start really kind of putting down the roots, if you like. As well, Saturn then starts to head into your fourth house of the home. It'll really start to feel like home. Saturn gets a big bad rap. I kind of like Saturn. He's very comfortable in Aquarius because he's the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So I kind of feel like when Saturn's going into Aquarius, he's bringing all these. He's the Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. He's going to bring all these crazy ideas that are going to kind of explode and say, okay, here's how we create this structure out of it. Here's how we create this business out of it. Here's how we plan it and build it, start building it up. And then he'll eventually move to square your ascendant too after he goes back and forth a little bit. So hang on. Saturn will square your ascendant early 2021. And that's kind of feels like when your business will really start to build or whatever you decide to do. Yeah. You do intend to build a business, yeah?
yes.
Yeah.
I've been working as a freelancer. I write training material for the pulp and paper manufacturing industry. It's mindlessly numbing and it pays me buttloads of money.
Oh.
And I've been doing it. It was a year in December, so I've been doing it for exactly a year this month. And I've been really grateful for the money. I've been really grateful for being able to work at home and make a lot of money. I'm really tired of paper manufacturing.
Yeah. Feels like you're getting ready to really break free of that. It's kept you.
Yes, it has. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, with all this stuff. So yeah, Saturn, I think, going into Aquarius and squaring your Neptune and squaring your ascendant is saying, and that's kind of in the second half of next year, really into early 2021. It'll be time to really kind of start manifesting, making real, and all the ideas you start to have in the coming months. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to go back to right, my window guy just walked past. The secondary progressions. The secondary progressed moon, I wanted to look at where that is. Now that's on the up as well. It's been in Taurus for about 2 years. So it's funny that you said that what you've been doing has given you shed loads of money, because Taurus is very often associated with the material world. It's going to move into Gemini. That doesn't mean you won't make any money again, but it's going to move into Gemini, your progressed moon, May of 2020. You see how things are lining up for next year.
Yeah.
And then that's Gemini, that's ideas. That's like, you know, that's like your mind starts to really kind of create the new ideas. It can also be related to teaching. You could even start studying some subjects. Not, I don't mean like going to college or anything, but you could start. You get the idea. You're going to have 2.5 years of your of ideas, really, of idea making when your moon goes into Gemini. I live with a moon in Gemini. I'm always like investigating and studying something. So it's like I'm always getting ideas, but you're going to have that for quite a long time. The progressed moon, it's not been there for 30 years as well. So that's kind of going to liven things up for you as well. I think when the progressed moon moves out of Taurus, which can be a bit staid. And so it's going to shake things up a bit. Your progressed sun, where's that? Okay. So that's in Aquarius, has been for a long time. So we're not going to look at that. Progressed Venus. I'm going to look at solar arcs too. I don't know. Your progressed Venus is in Aquarius. And that's a lot of ideas as well. Once this Uranus goes forward and wakes up, I think your mind's going to be on fire, to be honest, and you're going to be ready to go. So, okay, solar arcs. No, there wasn't that much I saw with that. So they're the main aspects, but we've got like 10 more minutes if you've got more questions and things. And I want to say happy birthday too. You've got the share.
Thank you.
You share a birthday with my husband.
So you talked about interesting patterns at the very beginning of
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's look at those. So you have this, you have a kite here. In fact, you've got 2 kites, maybe. No, you've got 1 kite and another grand trine. So the kite's the most interesting. So it's Uranus is kind of at the point of it. So that Uranus is one of your most important planets in your chart because it's at the top of your chart. It's being activated by all those things we've talked about. You're quite the innovator. And in Leo, that kind of the storytelling aspect does make sense. But what you bring into it is this fire grand trine and then Chiron in Aquarius. He's. Have you studied Chiron at all?
Um, some,
Yeah.
not in any kind of like formalized way.
I don't want to be redundant, that's all. So I'll just tell you
Right,
what he means for
right.
me. I
I,
see I see Chiron as the shaman, the medicine person. And your Chiron is in Aquarius, so that's very much doing things in a unique way and seeing the bigger patterns. Uranus, I mean, Aquarius is kind of like the intergalactic patterns.
yes.
That's why it's associated with astrology itself, because we make sense of the patterns. But interestingly, your Chiron is conjunct asteroid Hygeia, which, if you look at it, it looks like the AMA medical kind of, yeah. And then your moon's in Aquarius here as well. So it makes it very strong, this kite, and it makes it a very interesting pattern that you're bringing it in. So, the medical kind of intuitive kind of made sense, except, as you said, it's just too empathic and nobody does it. But you could, this in part of the storytelling or a part of your business, you could bring that kind of medicine person, medicine woman, shaman kind of energy into it, about how people can be their own medicine person, if you like. Does that make sense?
If you change your story,
Yeah,
it totally shifts your life.
it does.
It's a profoundly human process.
Yeah.
And I had a crummy childhood. And so healing and changing stories
Mm-hmm.
or telling, I was a great liar as a child,
Ah,
fabulous liar, really like excellent liar.
yeah.
When I started telling myself the truth
Uh,
and then started saying that truth in the family,
yeah.
no, this is not what happened. Do you remember? This is what happened. Worlds shifted. And they shifted for my family, whether they were willing to acknowledge it or not. Most of them not. For me, it really changed me profoundly.
Yeah.
And I had a huge health thing in my early 30s, 2 near-death experiences within 12 months of each other.
Wow. Oh.
And so, to be able to like reframe the story,
Mm-hmm.
my life depended on it.
Yeah.
So do I believe in this? I believe this is such incredibly strong, powerful medicine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this, your chart has been pointing to this all your life, for you to do kind of in the world, really. I would say Saturn. One corner of this is Saturn in Sagittarius, which, and Sagittarius is all about truth and finding the truth, and Saturn is kind of the cold hard truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then over on this corner of this pattern, a kite pattern is lovely. I mean, it's like, oof. And you've got Eris there, the disruptor. You've read a bit about Eris.
I know a lot about Eris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've also got Ceres, and Ceres is, amongst other things, she's the story of Demeter and Persephone, and she's about grief and forgiveness. And a lot of what you have to do when you change your story is, people sometimes go through grief for what they have done before, for what they believed before.
Yes. Yes.
And then they have to go through a form of self-forgiveness too.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got all this coming in with this wonderful medicine woman who can help people to change their patterns, because you've done it for yourself, and then you can take it to teach it to the world by helping other people tell their stories. So you could not be more kind of on target with that business idea.
Uh,
I just kind of think the retrogrades and the stuff you've been through have just kind of slowed you down from doing it. But
yeah,
um, I think it's going to take off with all the other activations activating it. So and that Uranus by transit that we've talked about going over here will be squaring your Chiron as well, of course. So it'll be activating this whole line here, and bringing in this. It could be tremendously healing to a lot of people to help them to change their stories.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, I believe so.
yeah,
And I've seen it just with, the handful of clients that I've worked with.
mm,
It's like you sit down and just listen to someone ramble for 3 hours. And at the end of 3 hours, you say, okay, this is what I heard. And
yeah,
you hear how this connects with this, and this connects with this. And these 4 things that you said, this is your 4-point bullet checklist of what it is that you offer as a business.
yeah,
And they go, what? So that piece of it really, it makes me wet when I think about it. I get very, very excited about that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you can see on a cellular level, people just start shifting around, inhabiting that new story.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm an alcoholic and I don't go to AA because the 13th step needs to be, I no longer define myself as an alcoholic.
yes, I agree.
The 13th step is the other 12 steps go away.
Yeah,
But they don't do it that way.
no, they don't. You're kind of replacing the drink with AA because you're stuck in doing the 12 steps.
Exactly. I got friends that, it's like 3-4 meetings a week and they haven't had a drink in 30 years.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
not where I was at, but not at all.
No, you're too break free and come up with your own. Well, the fact you add an extra step, that's very much about breaking these patterns and the stories. So,
Right.
and I did mention you've got this other grand trine too, which is actually no, it is making a kite to your north node, so it's connected to that nodal axis, and that's an Earth grand trine, and it's connected with Juno in Capricorn. I think this is where some of your social activism or your political activism comes in. This is about Juno's about the rights of oppressed people and seeing the wrong that the authorities doing, the institutions are doing in Capricorn. Jupiter comes out with ideas of how to help people out of that. So you could even bring that in a little bit, people that have been a bit downtrodden. You could help them to change their story so it heals them. So, yeah.
I used to be the volunteer coordinator for a women's homeless shelter in Illinois.
Uh-huh.
And I've never heard that about Juno before.
I know everybody always goes, oh, it's the marriage asteroid. And it has got that kind of soulmate thing, but it's Demetra George in her book Asteroid Goddesses. She mentions it, that it's about the rights of abused, the oppressed people, the abused people, the outcasts and things like that. And I find it to be really true. I find it to be very much associated with that the more I work with her.
Well, Juno is not represented well in mythology.
No.
And I've heard people talk about it being kind of like a nagging woman.
Yeah.
That there's this nagging victim quality to Juno because, she had a really shitty relationship with Jupiter who put his dick in everything.
Yeah, well, she She was a abused woman, really. Anyway, so
Yes, in very
yeah,
many ways. Yeah.
yeah,
So that's interesting. That's quite sitting down there at the bottom in what is it, Capricorn through Aquarius
yeah.
is quite the stallion of powerful female energy, isn't it?
Oh, it is incredible. Pallas Athena, Lilith, the moon. Yeah, medicine woman. Because I know I don't, or I don't see Chiron as neither male nor female. Hygeia, she was a goddess too. Do you know? So yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. And it's very much to do with healing. Pallas Athena sees visionary patterns. And in Aquarius she can see the big picture, the big patterns as well. Yeah, you've got a very break-free chart, really, behind that Scorpio kind of.
Yeah. What you see is not what you get with.
No, no, no. So yeah.
Okay.
So they're the patterns I could see. I love kites. They're a nice, some patterns are more challenging, but I bet you've done a lot of good in the world, and you're still going to after you get out your little doldrums. That's going to disappear. So.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah. So
I can't really think of anything else that I want to ask. I feel pretty complete.
cool. Awesome. I hope it's given you a bit of it's
Yes.
coming. Cool.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so I will send you the recording probably tomorrow in a
Okay.
Dropbox folder. So, and I send it by video and just audio, so you've got both. If you
Okay, great.
so. Okay.
Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I have to tell you, I'm enjoying your political commentary profoundly.
Oh, good.
And I'm just going to put this out there, but the next presidential election, we should start our own version of the Young Turks. I think you and I as a podcast.
Oh, I think that would be quite good.
Or maybe we should just get a wild hair and say that when Trump debates whoever the candidate is, let's just jump on a podcast and let's just go blow by blow with the debates.
Why not? Let's do it.
Exactly. And if only 4 people watch it, it may become one of those like underground cult classics.
Yes.
Yeah. So who do you think the nominee is going to be? You got to
I really don't know. I have to hold out hope it's still going to be Bernie.
Yeah, I hope so too. But
yeah.
Do you know who Eugene V. Debs was?
Yeah.
My grandfather, my dad's dad, worked on 4 of his presidential campaigns.
Oh, wow.
He was the committee chairman for Eugene V. Debs in Chicago.
Wow.
And the town that we lived in Illinois was where Eugene V. Debs spent a year and a half in jail. After the Pullman strikes in Chicago, they sent him to McHenry County, and he spent a year and a half in jail and converted people in this little rural town, to socialism.
Oh, right. Wow.
I don't know. Bernie Sanders and Eugene V. Debs, there's like such a strong similarity.
Oh, there is.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I don't know if he'll ever be allowed to be the nominee, but I have to hope for that. I can't.
Right. I'm guessing that they're going to go with Lizzie Warren.
I think they might, and I can't stand her.
Well, looking at the rest of the guys on the
oh, she's better than them.
yeah, but Trump's going to eat her alive in the debate.
Completely. Absolutely.
Yes. Bernie, on the other hand, angry old Jewish man and Donald Trump.
Oh, Bernie.
And I would have fucking paid money to see that.
Bernie will laugh at Trump.
Exactly. And he gets pissy. He gets really like crotchety and starts to yell.
I know.
And, Hillary would never yell back at him. He just needs someone to whack his pee-pee and he'll lay right down.
Exactly.
So we can talk about the BDSM overtones in the debate.
Okay. All right. I better go. Husbands, come home. But it was such a pleasure to meet you, and I'll see
you as well.
you. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.